Nigeria's Executive Order 003 is a policy that requires ministries, departments, and agencies to favor local manufacturers and services when procuring goods and services. But what is the impact of this policy on local content? What are the challenges facing Nigeria's ICT manufacturing sector, as well as the opportunities for growth? Osai Zedowe, the chairman and founder of Imose Technologies and a player in the country's ICT manufacturing sector, will be discussing this with me. Now, Osai, as someone who is all about, local ICT manufacturing, how do you see the government's local content policy changing the production and consumption of ICT goods and services, especially, well, I guess what I'm just asking is how effective is Executive Order 003 on support for local content? How effective is it?
Yeah, thanks, Malaimi. I think the government is making concerted efforts to really drive local content utilization, particularly in the ICT sector. The Executive Order 003 has been in place for a while, but we see this administration making concerted efforts through very determined partnerships, through policy statements. What we would like to see happen a bit more is real concrete steps that go beyond just policy statements. For example, ensuring that the procurement process in the entire government bureaucracy gives priority to local ICT providers, prioritizes the utilization of locally manufactured or locally assembled hardware across all tiers of government. I think there's still a lot of work to be done there, but the signs we see so far are quite promising and encouraging.
There's still a lot that can be done because a couple of startups, switched to software, providing software solutions because of the issues in having adequate hardware. But, despite the potential in this sector, like you said, there are significant challenges that we need to overcome. But tell me, what would you say are the most pressing ones, facing local production of ICT goods?
Well, first of all is the inherent local capacity. As you know, a lot of the components that are deployed in the manufacturing of ICT goods are not really produced here. Now, for ICT goods producers to thrive effectively in this country, we need to build an ecosystem. And that requires focusing on building the components that form the bedrock for most of these ICT components. So we're talking about batteries. We're talking about LCD screens. When I mean batteries, now I'm talking about lithium-ion batteries. We're talking about even the plastic components. Now, there has to be a concerted effort to build that value chain, to build that ecosystem. Because until we build that ecosystem, it's going to be challenging for really big ICT goods producers to spring up, because most of the goods will have to be imported. And with the current FX challenges that we've had as a country, you can clearly see that it will, of course, limit their capacity to grow and compete effectively. Today, the world is a global stage. We've got a lot of Asian manufacturers selling into the Nigerian market. And they're coming in with goods that were obviously produced in Asia with a very strong ecosystem, with very strong governmental support, subsidies in many cases. So the field is not level. So we need to focus on, first of all, ensuring that there is a concerted effort to build an ecosystem. Two, driving policy in a way that is very hands-on, not just at the helicopter level, but really coming down to understand what the critical success factors are and funding those areas that can enable the growth of an ecosystem. I think those are very key. I think Nigerians generally are willing to patronize locally manufactured ICT goods as long as they meet their quality expectations and, of course, are competitive. But to do that, to deliver that quality and price points that will make it attractive, a strong ecosystem is required. And that's where I think the focus should be, to really enable that environment to flourish.
All right, so I really was going to, ask you next what specific steps, we need to take to overcome these challenges, but you already did justice to that. But, also many have called for the government, and its agencies to actively patronize local innovators and developers. How impactful do you think such support would be in terms of boosting innovation and scaling businesses like yours?
I mean, clearly it will be very impactful. When you think about the entire government bureaucracy, the number of laptops and tablets that are deployed today across that government bureaucracy, the numbers are humongous. Now, probably 99% of those devices were imported. Imagine if we could localize the purchase of those devices. By localizing, I mean acquiring those devices, those laptops, those desktop PCs from local manufacturers like Imosi Technologies. Imagine the impact it would have. Now, until we allow for the rapid growth of our own local players, it will be very difficult for them to achieve the scale that would allow them to do significant backward integration to grow the ecosystem. Now, government has a huge role to play. When you look at the budget this year and you streamline it, looking at specific spend on ICT, it goes into trillions. Now, imagine that trillions is funneled into a few players that are serious, committed, and have the capacity to build local content. Over a short few years, those players can truly become global players. So I think it's very impactful, and that's why we must encourage the full implementation of Executive Order 003. We must encourage local players like ourselves who continue to invest in this environment despite the difficulties and all the challenges that we face. I think we need to be encouraged. And clearly, one way the government can do that is by ensuring that all of the ICT goods that are used or deployed across the government bureaucracy are purchased from local players. I think that will go a long way to drive this ecosystem for growth.
Well, you're absolutely right. Partnerships, will definitely play a key role in, fostering the growth of local content production. And as someone that's, it's all about the manufacturing of mobile and computer devices, I'm sure you have a first-hand experience on how, things like that can play out for you. But what opportunities do you see for collaboration between local ICT companies and foreign investors, to drive innovation and improve access to tech in the country?
The opportunities are huge. International ICT companies are looking for large markets like what we have in Nigeria. The local players understand the needs, the nuances of the local market. And I believe that for any ICT company, local or international, or a joint venture to survive and truly develop long-term value, they need to apply indigenous adaptations. And I think those indigenous adaptations are best served through partnerships with local players who understand the market, who've been here, who really know what the people require, what the success factors are. I'll give you an example. At Imosi Technologies, we had to focus on the battery life of our devices very early in the day because we realized that power was a significant challenge. And so while other international players produce smartphones with, a few thousand amps, milliamps of battery capacity, we focused on day one on going as high as 5,000 milliamps, even though we had to sacrifice form factor and design and outward look because we knew that Nigerians understood the importance of having a long-lasting battery life on a smartphone or on a feature phone. Those are clear examples that drive indigenous adaptations for long-term innovation and creation of value. So partnerships with foreign players who clearly have the expertise, who clearly have a much more robust ecosystem, will enable us to deliver on these indigenous adaptations even faster and more effectively. So yes, I would encourage those partnerships, and I would encourage foreign players to look for serious partners like us to work with, so that we can deliver results for this market and truly grow the customer base.
Well, Osai, before I let you go, as someone at the forefront of, trying to change the narrative, in terms of hardware, in the hardware market, right? What do you think, or to you, what does the future of local ICT manufacturing look like? And what do you think needs to happen now to turn that vision into a reality?
Well, I think the future is bright. The future is actually very bright. besides hardware, even in the software space, today we have created several unicorns in Nigeria in the software space. In the hardware space, we've also started creating some really large companies. Today, for example, Imosi Technologies, which I happen to have founded and chair, we're producing close to 1 million devices every year, locally here. And even on the software side, our edtech company, TSAS Education, today is providing a platform to educate learners, all over the country, running into millions. So the future is bright. I'm just speaking from my perspective. When I look around, I see a lot of young people also doing great things within the space. What we just need now is encouragement. We need government policies that are consistent, that support the ecosystem, that drive innovation. And I'm particularly excited with about the new 3MTT program that the current administration is driving through the Federal Ministry of Innovation and Communication, led by Dr. Bosun Tijani. Some really interesting stuff going on there. If we stay consistent and build a really strong base of talented people in the ICT space, we can truly become the next India. So I see some really good initiatives coming out of the government there, but we need more. We need more because the deficit is significant. So the level of urgency to drive ICT development needs to be far more than what we have today. I do understand that some of these things require funding, and given the difficult funding challenges, difficult funding environment that we find ourselves rather, I understand that sometimes these things have to be paced. But I'll just encourage the government to continue to push and push and push, because we do have a large workforce that if we focus our energies to train them, if we focus our energies to create a very viable environment for these young individuals to put their tech skills to bear, we could easily export talent. And that could become a significant foreign exchange earner for us as a people, as a government. So the future is bright. I look forward to continuing my work to drive innovation in this space and collaborating with others and the government, like we're already doing, to build a viable ecosystem in the ICT industry.
Well, true. I as well, I agree with you because through consistent policies, investments, or even collaborations, like you've rightly mentioned, we can as well we can strengthen our local ICT manufacturing space, including the hardware market, and make it more competitive globally. Well, it was great to have you, Osai Izedowe, Chairman and Founder of Imose Technologies. Thank you so much for joining us on Tech Trends.
Thank you for having me.